Hi, I'm Rehan. I'm a 25-year-old lawyer and I want to reverse engineer my vision of a fulfilling life. And so I thought I would have conversations with people having different experiences than mine and hopefully learn a thing or two.
Our guest for today is Priyanshi. She's a CA, a lawyer, and also the proprietor behind her venture, Beyond the Degree.
Let's get into it. So welcome on, Priyanshi. First off, let's delve into the CA. You are a third generation CA now. That obviously entails a lot of pressure. Just tell me more about that and then we can go on into all the other things that you do as well.
Firstly, thanks Rehan for having me here today. I really like talking, so I think this is great to be here on your podcast. But as for your question, so I'm a third generation CA, and I think I've never really said this on camera, but I wouldn't have done CA had I not been third generation. I don't think I was ever too interested in pursuing accounting. I was always interested in pursuing law, but I only did CA because I knew that, okay, we have a family practice and you'd know how that feels.
Yeah.
So it's just like a good backup to have, right? If you don't know what to eventually do in the future, where to go, you have your family practice to fall back on. So that's actually a reason why I really did CA. Hate working with numbers, which is why I'm working more as a lawyer now. But as for the pressure aspect, you know, when you come from a family of chartered accountants where almost everyone has cleared in the first attempt or people are rankers, etc., there's obviously a huge amount of pressure that will I even clear the exams in the first go.
Completely.
You know, forget like getting a rank or anything on those lines.
You just want to get through.
You just want to get through, and for that you have to go through like 4 hard years of like isolation, studying, pressure, everything else, and then you don't even know whether you're really going to clear in the first attempt or not. So I think every time I was studying, even like post the second level, which is CA Inter, I did think of leaving CA a lot of times. I'm just like, why the hell am I doing this? Or like, why am I even pursuing CA? Or like, should I even get through to CA final or not? But also, I'd say this about myself. I think I work best under pressure. So it really worked for me too. Of course, there was pressure that I need to clear this in the first attempt. But because I had that pressure, it also really pushed me to like study harder and probably even get a rank.
Completely. So that's very, very impressive, because I think when you speak about like competitive exams, especially with familial legacy there, the biggest pressure comes from the uncertainty, because there's so many things that are not in your control when you give a paper, right? Now, as you said, you're a third generation CA. I'm a third generation solicitor. Where I just gave the solicitor's exam now, but I didn't clear in my first attempt. So I cleared 5 papers. I didn't clear the tax paper by 4 marks. So I had to re-gave that quite recently, hopefully to get through that now and then. But I came from a family where they were all first attempts. So I didn't meet the first attempt threshold, and that obviously had its own set of feelings. But then you come out and you give it again. But the uncertainty is what causes like a lot of anxiety in that period, because of the pressures where people sometimes don't understand. It's often very easy, don't get me wrong, it's incredibly easy going into a profession where there's a backing involved. You can't compare the two with someone who's not, but it has a different set of pressures involved to living up to certain expectations. How did you learn to manage with living up to those expectations? Because it is daunting at times. If you've definitely seen families succeed and you're going into their footsteps. And how do you break through that?
I honestly think you don't live up to expectations, you just survive.
So
I think I've always been like a good student since school. Always been like, you know, good at studies, good at sports, all of those things. So inherently, I think had it not been even for the fact that I'm a third generation CA, had it just been for, you know, the fact that I'm a good student, there would still be a good amount of pressure that like, oh my God, she's a good student, she studies well, she works well. So if she doesn't clear, then like, can anyone clear? You know, that kind of pressure. So that expectation and pressure was always there from, I'd say, all the way from school. I think I just really got used to it at one point. But for me, to a large extent, the turning point was when I entered junior college. Because my first year at junior college, I remember I was at HR, and because I felt like I'd studied so much in school and you know, spent so much time, I felt rebellious. Exactly. And I felt that whole 11th grade here, I have like not studied, I've just gone out, I've just partied, I've just like socialized, I've done all of those things. So, and that was the year I didn't, you know, do well. Basically, I wasn't in like the top 10 in my class, for example. I didn't do well, I didn't perform well, but I also reached a point where I was like, okay, I don't care. I literally reached that point, and I think that really helped me even like going forward, where obviously there were like 2 sides to my brain as well. One side that goes like, you have to push through this, people are going to talk about you if you don't like manage expectations or people are going to talk about how your family is smart, but you're not. Yeah. But there was also another side of my brain that just went like, I don't care, whether I clear or not, I've put in the effort. And if not, there's always, like the next attempt or an attempt after, or there's always the option to like even leave it because it's not the end of the world.
It's like that duality in thinking, because the internal side will calm you down, saying, I've tried my best, but that's only if you've tried your best.
That's only if you've tried your best.
Because if you've not tried your best, you will feel worse. But if you have tried your best, then the outcome is not in your control, which is something I learned throughout like my 7 months of health. But the external side makes the pressure feel like so much more than it is, because what people will think. And I think that's what I was alluding to initially. But that whole isolative period when you're studying, did you feel like you came out as a different person from the person you went in versus the person you came out? And I say that because I feel I changed as a person completely based on my experience studying, because it was hard for me. I'm an incredibly social person. I like to continuously meet like my friends, or spend a lot of time with my parents, spend a lot of time with family. But when you're doing your sols, you can't do any of that. You are cut out. And it's so important to have a support system. Did you struggle with that? Did your identity change? And how much does support system play in your journey throughout that period?
I think I completely relate to you from the whole social angle. I love like going out, I love partying, I love meeting new people, and I'm also very active when it comes to sports. But also I think it helped me change in a good way. I'd say, I wouldn't say it helped my identity change, but it just helped me change in a way where I felt like I started giving a lot less energy and time to things that don't matter. For example, if I was like socializing 100x, I would probably start socializing like 60x, because I felt like, okay, the 40% doesn't matter at all. And that's what I realized in the whole period where I was cut off too. Like when I was studying for CA final especially, I deleted Instagram. I even deleted WhatsApp. And I felt good. Because I felt like, okay, I'm just interacting with the people I really want to talk to over call or my family at home. But I'm not, like, basically I'm just cutting out all the noise in essence. And I try to keep that going. I deleted Snapchat, and it's just been deleted since then, because it just feels like I don't need an additional social media app. Probably, one is enough. So I think it helped my identity change in a way where I think I started realizing that when it comes to people, especially, like who the important ones are and who they aren't. More basically, I'd put it across as exactly what to prioritize.
And what to not. Who prioritizes you. Now, because it's not something you can go through alone. Like anyone who's cleared the CA or given the solicitors, or I had given something known as the CLAT exam to get into like a national law school. And anyone who gives any of these tests or these competitive exams understands that it's not just a self-isolated exercise, it's a support system that helps make you successful in those endeavors, right? And at least something I realized was I started valuing my friends so much more, who literally would come meet me for like 10 minutes. Or like 15 minutes. They would know I was stressed out, they'd come over for 15-20 minutes, and that was it. They wouldn't make it about themselves. They understood what you are going through, and then they would make time for you. So then you truly value the people who want to be there for you, understanding your circumstance. Where a lot of the people also, it helps you cut out the people which you are, it's a transactional friendship or transactional relationship. You end up spending more time with the people that you truly value, and they truly value you. And that was a big eye opener for me. It also helped build like resilience, I think, because going through that whole experience made you more bulletproof. Like you realize the internal emotions of how difficult it is, and you come out having a new sense of confidence, which something like I wouldn't change that experience, how much ever I hate it now looking back, or I would not recommend it for like most or anyone. But I'm still very grateful for the experience. But let's take you through the emotions you felt in that whole 4-year CA journey. What were the things that you felt? Like, get vulnerable. Tell me all about them.
I'll definitely tell you about how I felt throughout the whole journey, but I just wanted to add to one of the things you said previously: resilience, confidence, and actually a lot of discipline. That I feel like today I'm absolutely not disciplined. But when I was like you go through any professional exam, you have to wake up at a certain time, or you have to put in like certain hours of effort. And then it also reminds you today that if I could do like CA, I can do anything today.
Exactly.
Like you just have to remind yourself of that.
The shoulders become broader. Like now if I'm trying something like even like the pod, I just feel like I can just go ahead and just do it, because for two things. One is I had a huge fear of failure, but once I failed the one of the 6 papers that I gave, the only one, and that was by 4 marks, so thank you, gave me an acceptance of failure. Like it's inevitable, you can fail in like any aspect of life, so there's no harm in trying, because if you fail, you can try again. again,
Right.
that doesn't really matter. And secondly, you've gone through the whole experience where you have, easiest way for me to say it is, once the hard yards are done, you know you can do it again.
And it gives you a push.
Yeah, it does.
To an extent that, okay, I didn't do it previously, but I probably know what went wrong. So it gives you that push that, okay, you can do better the next time, or
100%.
you can put in a little more effort in the areas where you think you were lacking. All of those aspects to it actually works both ways though for people. Like, I'm glad you're talking about it so openly and being confident too, because a lot of people just feel like, oh my god, I failed and like this is not meant for me and I need to leave it.
But failure is a
and
part of
everything.
you. Like, I truly believe that.
Yeah.
See, I failed immensely in my badminton career. I used to reach state quarter, state semis, and lose.
Right.
I've played nationals and I've not really done that well there.
Right.
I lost in like the pre-quarters and quarters. So on the whole, I never really won much there. But at that time, the failure felt like a burden. Like there was something wrong with me, and it used to bother me a lot.
Right.
But I think the older I got, the more I failed, the more you just get used to the fact that you just have to be right once.
That's
whether
true.
it's in a career, whether it's in a startup, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a friendship.
Whether it's in the arranged marriage
Whether it's
process.
in the arranged marriage process.
Yeah.
Like, in any sphere of your life, you
Yeah.
just have to be right once, but you can't not try. Like,
That's true.
Even with the podcast, I don't mind just going ahead and doing it, and then whatever people have to say, people have to say.
And
But
you have nothing to lose.
I don't care. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll just
you
keep
have nothing to
going
lose.
completely. Yeah.
But coming back to the experience aspect, more of a negative experience. Throughout, we obviously spoke about, the confidence aspect and how I was disciplined and everything else. But in terms of my experience with the whole professional degree, I feel like there was not a single day where I didn't question why I was doing it. Or I felt like, I just want to leave CA. This is not even like my calling. This is probably not something that I want to do for the rest of my life. So why am I really doing it? Am I only doing it because my family is like just a firm full of CAs? All of those thoughts. And I felt like I had those every day. I wouldn't say that I enjoyed what I was studying. There are people who are really passionate about the subjects that are taught to, who are like willing to read more than what the books offer and all of that. I wasn't one of those. I was basically just doing the degree for the sake of getting the degree. At least that's the thought that I had throughout and till I reached the CA final stage. But I think once I cleared CA and once I obviously moved to the professional world is when I really realized the value of the degree and the value of what I learned, not just
not
the paper
title.
degree, not the title. I went to NYU for my master's after that, but I was able to grasp things so much faster, even compared to like people with a lot of more work experience than I had, because I had done a professional degree and because I had gone through that whole
the rigor,
turmoil, whatever you call it. Trauma also.
Yeah.
And the same like resilience that like, hey, if I could do this, I can like
do anything.
So overall, I think in hindsight now that I think of it, it just turned out to be, like you said, an experience that you wouldn't trade for anything else, no matter how much you hated it while you were going through it. Once you come out of it, it's like you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
And,
but it's the hardest thing to tell someone while they're going through it.
Yeah.
But for anyone that's going through it, I assure you, the side that you see of yourself, pass or fail regardless, if you try your best, the side of yourself that you see outside of it will give you a sense of newfound confidence that you've never had before. So I think that's just a reassurance for anyone that's going through that tumultuous period now. In any of those phases whether it's an exam or other aspect of life where it's feeling incredibly hard, it's just really important not to quit, because you will think of quitting every day. At least I used to really have those thoughts. But you just have to push through and understand that you disassociate the feelings from what you truly have to do. And then when you completely keep those two aside and just get the shit done, then everything will fall into place eventually.
But I also actually have a second school of thought here. And since I feel like we talk a lot about how Gen Zs work and how Gen Alphas work, like you and me, we both are also Gen Zs, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. I also think that there's always been like a notion that if you start something, like you don't give up, especially when you're doing like professional degrees where you feel like, oh, I have to like go through till the end, or I have to complete this degree. But I also feel like if, you're not someone like me, or maybe you don't have a family backing in that particular profession. But if you start feeling like you're not enjoying this particular profession at all, or if you start feeling like, this is not something that you want to do. I've seen like a lot of CAs drop out midway and still do like wonderful things, like set up their own venture or come up with their own startup idea, or even start a podcast, for example, and do really well, right? So I think the whole notion of like, don't give up doesn't come from the fact that like, oh, you don't want to push through. You give up because maybe you're not interested and you want to pursue something else, or you don't give up because you just don't want to let one failure affect you. But at the end of the day, it's just ultimately as to how you perceive it and how you want to.
I think that's a very interesting point of view. It's so true as well. But I have a contrarian thought on that.
Yeah.
That whenever you start something,
right,
take the exam process out of it, because sometimes the subjects may not speak to you, and then there's no need to stick in that situation from a fantasy standpoint, and it's better to be flexible and move on to something which interests you. But from a career's perspective, I feel like more often than not, when you get into a career, everyone's shit in the beginning. Everyone is, and because you're shit, you think that this is not for you.
Fair.
But the more you stick in it, the more you get that validation internally and externally, because you get better, the more you tend to enjoy it. What do you think of that school of thought as well? Often you enjoy a career more the better you are at it. It's like a sport. Like, and if you just said you started playing badminton, right? In the beginning, your shoulder would hurt. You would be not very good at playing.
You wouldn't be able to get the shuttle
back. And then probably a year into playing, you can pick up the shuttle, you can serve, you can sort of play somewhat more of the strokes, you can play with some friends, and it's more enjoyable. But you have to get through the 1 year of being horrible at it and wanting to quit every weekend where you're going to coaching. What do you think of that school of thought as well?
I think, Rehan, what you're saying is also very true. And I think what we really need to see is finding the midway between like what you're talking and what I'm talking as well. Basically, I think that today there are so many options available in terms of like career, sports, whatever you're picking up, that everything is also a lot about like trial and error. You won't know whether you like or dislike something until you've tried it. And in order for you to understand whether you're, just simply giving up because you're not good at it, or you're giving up because you're not interested, you just have to give it like a good amount of time. The example that you just said about badminton, you give it some time, but maybe if after 1.5 years, 2 years, you still just don't enjoy the sport, and you find yourself waking up and being like, shit, I don't want to play today. Then that's when you know that you're truly, just not interested.
This is not for you.
So I think that's like the perfect midway between what you're saying and what I'm saying, because you just have to give it a good amount of time, be patient with it, but at the same time, start realizing whether you're like feeling excited about it or you're not feeling excited about it.
Interesting. I think I completely agree with that point of view as well. It's about being disciplined, but having perspective. And being flexible in what you choose to do. And then let life take its course.
And being patient as well. I say this because I see a lot of my younger cousins today, they just like try one thing. It's been like 2 weeks and they're like, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, no,
it doesn't work that way.
Things work.
Completely. But I think our generation, or at least the younger generations, want things now. And that's something at least I also struggle with as well. Like thinking that it's a very like sort of egoistic sort of thinking that you know it all. Or like you think you know it all based on all the information that's available today. But nothing. And the law has been such a humbling experience for me, because you learn firsthand that at the end of the day, we're in a career of iteration and from experiences. Like someone who's far more experienced has seen far more iterations, and therefore the likelihood of him being more right than you is higher. Based on their experience. So then you really have to assume that you don't know enough, and that's okay. And then have an open mind to learn from people rather than thinking that you know it. Which I think people younger than us, because of the information that they have all around them, especially now with ChatGPT and all the other AIs available, they really think they know it all.
They think they're smarter than anyone.
Yeah, man, I've noticed that as well. It's crazy.
Which is why we see so many people start their own thing now versus like pursuing any of the professional degrees.
I think so as well. But I do feel like the professional degrees, the utility of which is falling though, compared to what it used to be.
Especially because of AI coming in.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see a switch coming in the way. But it doesn't replace the ethics and the intangibles that it teaches.
Yeah, I agree. Like the discipline, the confidence, everything that we spoke about. But of course, then the real question is that you want to go through 4 years of that just to acquire the intangibles, or is there maybe any other way of acquiring the intangibles
so
as well?
Our answer to this is biased, but I will think everyone needs to pick their own choice and see what comes. Because if you choose that path, you have to be ready for all of it that it entails. Because you can't do it without fully committing to it, I think.
I agree.
There's no in between. You have to go all the way.
Yeah, you're all in or all out.
Yeah. So now, this was a very, very interesting perspective. Let's go now to something which I really enjoy talking about, is a life outside our career. You're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. We understand how much and how demanding the profession on your health, on your time, on your sanity at some point. But it's incredibly gratifying in a lot of ways as well. But there's an opportunity cost of being in the profession. I love my life outside of the law. I know you are also someone who thoroughly enjoys her life outside the law
Right.
with all the different ventures that you try. Tell me more about beyond the degree. What does
Sure.
that entail? What have you tried to start, and what have you been doing with it?
So I basically started Beyond the Degree as a passion project during COVID, because that's when we were at home and just had a lot of thoughts that we wanted to put on paper. So I think the idea always was that because I don't see myself as a conventional professional per se, like I don't see myself as just pursuing CA or law and nothing else. I wanted to encourage people, especially like younger kids, to also pursue their passion while pursuing a professional degree as well. So let's say that today I'm a CA and a lawyer, but I also worked as a radio jockey while I was pursuing CA, or I never stopped swimming competitively while I was doing CA. And this came to me really late, like once I was done with CA Inter, because that's when I realized that like what am I giving up everything for, when these are things that I really enjoy and these are things that make me happy. So what I really started was back then was basically like a platform where people could reach out to me. They related to my profile, so it was easier for them to reach out to me versus just cold messaging on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then I would try to mentor them or counsel them into how they can pursue their professional career while also maybe pursuing like blogging, for example, or while maybe starting their own podcast, for example.
Yeah.
All of those aspects. But today, I think I also like to see it as more of a marketplace of professional services of sorts pertaining to 4 professional degrees, where basically if you're pursuing like CA, CFA, law, or FRM, which is financial risk management, we want to create like a marketplace where you can ideally, let's say if you want a study plan, you get a study plan. You want mentorship, you get mentorship. If you want to connect with an industry expert, we help you do that. But it's just that we're providing one platform where we help you connect to like or avail of different services while also encouraging you to pursue like something outside of the conventional professional zone. So I think that's the idea with Beyond the Degree. It's more like a passion project, and just as the name goes, like it's to encourage people to also like follow the unconventional path too, and pursue your passion, whether it's professionally or whether it's just for fun.
Interesting. I think it's very important, especially when you're in those specific situations, to have a little bit of a life outside. Like during solicitors, I was training for High Rocks. So that was giving me my sense of like some peace, because that was keeping me going, giving me a little more life outside that mundane like experience. So I truly understand what you're talking about and the importance to have that outlet, but not many people know how to find it. So what you're doing, I'm sure, is helping everyone that who's like joined Beyond the Degree, and for people who want to join and want to have that sort of guidance, there's no better place to seek that guidance, I think. So yeah, that's super impressive.
Yeah.
But how have you managed these different roles and buckets in your life, like, and still have time for yourself and still have time for your vocation? Like, is there some lesson that you've learned? What sort of mistakes have you made? And how close have you been to burnout?
I think it's stemming more from the fact that like I get bored of things really easily. So I always need something new to do. So if I'm pursuing like a professional degree, I'd still need like an outlet like swimming or the whole radio jockey stint to like just keep myself entertained, I'd say. So a lot of times when I was pursuing multiple things, it came from the fact that I was able to manage my time because I really wanted to pursue the different things and ensure that, one particular job or one particular degree doesn't really get me bored. So it started from there. Like I was telling you, since school, I've always been the kind to be actively engaged in like studies, extracurriculars, as well as sports at the same time. So I think I just learned time management early on, I'd say. So it was always easier for me to plan my day backwards based on like what I really wanted to fill in a particular day. Like I'd start my day based on like, I need to go out and meet friends at like 8 p.m. because I also love socializing and I love partying. Wouldn't want to compromise on that either. So if I want to go out at like 8, 9 p.m., I work backwards from like 9 p.m. just to ensure that, at 9 p.m. I'm like done with whatever I want to do, whether it's like a workout or whether it's just my day at work. So I think it was a lot about time management, but at the end of the day, it's also a lot about like interest. That if you want to do it and you decide that like, I really want to do this, you will end up doing it, versus if you start thinking, procrastinating, or just realize that, hey, I'm just really lazy today. I've woken up early, but I just don't feel like going for a swim, then you're not going to do it no matter how well you really plan your day.
And more often than not, when you do feel that way, but you still go and swim, you'll feel so much better.
Exactly. And it'll help you, work better or like study better.
Completely.
Even once you're back. And even when you talk about the whole burnout question, like this is exactly what I do. That, take a break, do things that I really like. Or I think this is not the best advice, but I also switch in the middle. Like, let's say if today I'm just burned out because I'm pursuing law and I'm not enjoying law and I'm just feeling burned and I'm feeling tired of going to the court and arguing every day. I'll just take a small sabbatical in the middle where probably for 2 or 3 weeks I'll get back to podcasts, or I'll get back to radio talking, or anything that I really like, or maybe just get back to swimming, nothing else, and then go back to law after those 3 or 4 weeks. Because I think taking a break or taking a sabbatical now, even though it may not be looked upon that well externally, is something you're doing for yourself, and it's totally cool.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And I think externally, it's because the people that you seek that validation from are people who came from a generation where it was frowned upon. But I think today, with the pressures that one exists and the insecurities that are widespread, it's quite often that one does burn out.
Yeah.
Especially in our career. So as you know, that we're in a profession which has high attrition rates. People come in, they're constant new law graduates that are coming in all the time, and they're leaving the profession regardless of spending 5 years in law school or 3 years in law school for you to get into the profession. They're leaving it as fast as regardless of how long that they've spent trying to join it. So I think it's incredibly important to give yourself that be kind to yourself. Like, if you're not feeling it right now, it's okay regardless of the judgment that you may face, because when you come back, you'll be a lot more productive. But it's also a very brave step because you're seeking it from someone who's never understood it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not a counsel and you don't have that flexibility for yourself and you're working just at a firm, it's very difficult to explain to your superior, I'm feeling burnt out, because he'll just go and tell you that I did it, why can't you?
Yeah.
But no circumstances are the same. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on the associate or the senior associate to be vulnerable and ask, because otherwise they will just burn themselves to the ground. And have you seen that happen firsthand as well with CAs too?
No, I've definitely seen that a lot with CAs as well. In fact, I think to your point, I was really going to say that today, out of all the people that were studying CA that I know, who are my batchmates, even a lot of lawyers even, I don't remember anyone who's working as a conventional CA. Like, they've either started their own thing, they've joined businesses, they probably worked as CAs or as lawyers for 2 years, and then they completely left it, to a point where if I asked them that or if anyone asked them what degree did you pursue, they wouldn't even say that we did CA law as the first answer that comes to the head. So I think I have seen that a lot, where more than burnout, I feel like people burn out to a point where they just don't enjoy the profession and they make a career switch too.
Yeah.
And that's also completely okay. And in fact, that's one of the ethos that we also have at Beyond the Degree, where, again, as the name goes, you come in and if you're burnt out and you probably feel like you want to switch, you will make a career switch. We will help you do that.
Yeah.
And we will ensure that you're speaking to someone who's also gone through the journey themselves, so that you can relate to how it feels like. I have seen that very often than not nowadays. And with AI coming in and everything else, I also do firmly believe that anyone pursuing a professional degree should, of course, should upskill, but also should find a backup option.
Yeah, think about it a little more than usual.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about the next set of people coming in, because I think ours is the last generation, at least me, who's a couple of years younger, is the last generation of associates or going further, where would be relied upon. Like the conventional people joining in, the freshers, the A1s, their job is really at risk, I think, in the next couple of years, which is scary to me with what the AI can do.
Right.
Especially because a lot of our work is advisory, and when you take the human element out of advisory, it's quite dangerous.
Right.
So it's an interesting inflection point that we're on. No one knows where it's going. It could take 2 years, it could take 10 years. It's people should be aware of.
But honestly, I'm quite happy about it, because I have
it evens the playing field.
It evens the playing field, and more than that, I have to work less. If I had to work till 10 p.m, I can probably get done at 6 p.m. and make an opinion in 2 hours versus spending 8 hours to do it, right? So we're saving out on time, and we can focus on other activities.
That is true.
Who and me would have thought that as practicing lawyers we're able to do this podcast on a Sunday, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
And I actually did use a good amount of ChatGPT to help me with my solicitor's preparation. So means, especially for the one paper I failed, like the tax paper, tax and SEBI paper, I did rely on it a good amount to help, where I would feed in data, feed in my answers, and ask it to synthesize it better. So I think little things like that, you can also now use the tools that are available to help you, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
So Pri, I like to finish my episode with a quick set of rapid fire questions.
Wait, do I get a hamper at the end of this?
No, unfortunately not right now. But I'll get you some chocolates later. So the questions are: 1, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think the best piece of advice that I received was that your only competition is you, that you basically need to get better every day and compare what you're doing tomorrow to what you're doing today, and if that makes you happy. I think that has really stuck with me since college.
Interesting.
Since I received it, because it's not that like I don't want to see myself like win accolades or do well in the professional
You just
space
want to
as
be
long
better.
as you're better at what you're doing and you're happy.
That's
Yeah.
great advice, and I think that's the hardest thing to do, but it's also the most
Yeah.
gratifying thing to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. Two is, what is an unconventional career move that you've made that scared your parents?
I think that was very recent where I told them I want to get into the whole content creation space as well.
Okay,
I told them I want to be a thought leader, but at the same time I started like posting on LinkedIn. I want to create videos on Instagram, try to have my own podcast, everything, and that really scared them because they're like, "Oh, do you even have time? What about like, are you
Yeah.
going to focus at
I've
office?"
had the same problem.
Yeah.
I've had the same problem. They're still skeptical, but we do it anyway.
But we do it anyway.
We do it
right?
anyway.
We're rebels
Yeah.
somewhere.
One thing about being an all-rounder that sucks.
The pressure and the
Yeah.
expectations. Like today, everyone thinks you're perfect and that you can have no flaws, but that's not true. I can have a breakdown, I can burn out, I could not do well at work on a certain day, I could absolutely have a terrible podcast today, like everything.
Yeah.
It's just the pressure and the expectation or the idea that like, oh, you do everything, you must be like perfect.
Yeah, where they don't see the hard yards when no one is watching what
Exactly.
you're going through. One thing that most people overrate and underrate in their CV.
Okay, that's a really hard one. Even though I look at CVs very often,
Yeah.
I think people really overrate very small accolades at school. I understand that you were the head boy at school or you were the head girl at school, but when I'm looking at you today, or if as an interview I'm looking at you today, I'm going to look at your personality today and not what you really did in school. So would give less importance to like school achievements per se. And I think what people really underrate is I'd just say something as simple as like their work experience. Like you could have worked on a deal. You don't have to mention that like I worked on XYZ deal. You have to like amplify that I worked on XYZ deal where I really contributed XYZ and my contribution was valuable for like so and so reasons because this was the outcome.
Yeah.
So like 3 questions that you have to ask yourself, like what you worked on, how you worked on it, and what was the value addition that you made. That's very underrated because people think putting in more lines of work experience is more important versus putting in like quality work
I
experience.
think that's a great quick rapid fire. And to finally end, I want to end with, what question would you leave for the next guest that comes in?
I have a really fun question. I always like to ask people this, and maybe if you'd like, you and me can also answer this.
Yeah.
But if you had not chosen the profession that you're working in today, for example, let's say that if you and me were not working as lawyers, what would be the alternate career profession that you would pick?
Also, if money didn't play an absolute role, if I was just answering
Yeah, in a perfect world.
in a perfect world, I would love to teach.
Oh, you would love to teach. I was also interested in academia for a very long time, which is why the startup idea. But
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to answer it anyway. I think I would really want to be an Olympic swimmer.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
I always felt like the opportunities were a lot less in India, but if given a choice, I really want to do something just with sports.
Fantastic. So that concludes our episode. Thanks for coming on, Pri.
Thanks, Rehan, for having me.